Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter number 24, verse number 86. We will continue our reading from Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamam Bande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Paramananda Badhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So this chapter is 61 explanations of the Ātmārāma verse. Verse number 86. Nayam sukhapo bhagwan dehinam gopika sutaha jnaninam chatma bhutanam yatha bhakti matam iha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 10th canto, 9th chapter, verse 21, was spoken by Srila Shukadev Goswami. For an explanation, see Madhya Lila 8. Verse 2 to 7. Verse 87. Vidhi bhakte parshada dehe vaikunthete yaya. By executing regulative devotional service, one becomes an associate of Narayan and attains the Vaikuntha Lokas, the spiritual planets in the spiritual sky. Verse 88. Yacha vrajanti animisham rishabha anuvritya dure yama hi hya upari naha svirhaniya shilaha bhartur mitaha su yashasah kathanan anurag vaikallavya bashpa kalaya pulaki kritangaha. Those who discuss the activities of Lord Krishna are on the highest platform of devotional life, and they evince the symptoms of tears in the eyes and bodily jubilation. Such persons discharge the devotional service to Krishna without practicing the rules and regulations of the mystic yoga system. They possess all spiritual qualities, and they are elevated to the Vaikuntha planets which exist above us. Purport: this is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.25. In this verse, Lord Brahma is speaking to all the demigods who feared the two asuras in Diti's womb. Lord Brahma described the Kumara's visit to Vaikuntha, and this was again explained by Maitreya, the friend of Vyasadeva, when he gave instructions to Vidur. So Srila Prabhupada has given us a new word in the last verse, which we have to look up in the dictionary, because just to be sure about the meaning. Evince, E-V-I-N-C-E. Verse 89. Say upasaka haya trividha prakar akam moksha kam sarva kam ar. The devotees are divided into three categories: akam, that is desireless; mokshakam, desiring liberation; and sarvakam, desiring material perfection. Verse 90. Akamaha sarvakamo va mokshakama udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. One who is actually intelligent, although he may be a devotee free from material desires, a karmi desiring all kinds of material facilities, or a jnani desiring liberation, should seriously engage in bhakti yoga for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: this is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. Verse 91. Buddhiman arthe yadi vichar gyahaya nichkama lagiha tabe krishnere bhajaya. The meaning of the word udaradhi is buddhiman, intelligent or considerate. Because of this, even for one's own sense gratification, one engages in the devotional service of Lord Krishna. Moving on to next verse, verse 92. Bhakti vinu kona sadhana dite nare phala sab phala deya bhakti swatantra prabala. The other processes cannot yield results unless they are associated with devotional service. Devotional service, however, is so strong and independent that it can give one all the desired results. Verse 93. Ajagalastana nyaya anya sadhana atev hari bhaje buddhiman jana. With the exception of devotional service, all the methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. Therefore, an intelligent person adopts only devotional service, giving up all the other processes of self-realization. Purport. Without devotional service, other methods for self-realization and spiritual life are useless. Other methods cannot produce good results at any time, and therefore they are compared to the nipples on the neck of a goat. Those nipples cannot produce milk. Although it may appear that they can, an unintelligent person cannot understand that only devotional service can elevate one to the transcendental position. Verse 94. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritino arjuna arto jigyasur artharthi jnani cha bharatarshbha. This is a very famous verse from Bhagavad-Gita. The translation goes like this. O best among the Bharatas, Arjun, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Purport. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad-Gita 7.16. The word Sukritinaha is very important in this verse. Su means auspicious and Kriti means meritorious or regulated. Unless one follows the regulative principles of religious life, human life is no different from animal life. Religious life means following the principles of Varna and Ashram. In the Vishnu Puran, it is said, Varnashrama Charvata Purushena Paraha Puman Vishnur Aradhyate Pantha Nanyat Tat Dosha Karanam. According to religious life, society is divided into 4 social divisions: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and 4 spiritual divisions: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. One needs to be trained to become a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, just as one is trained to become an engineer, doctor, or lawyer. Those who are properly trained can be considered human beings. If one is not trained socially and spiritually, that is, if one is uneducated and unregulated, his life is on the animal platform. Among animals, there is no question of spiritual advancement. Spiritual life can be attained by proper training, either by following the principles of Varna and Ashram or by directly trained in the Bhakti Yoga school by the methods of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. Without being trained, one cannot be Sukriti or auspicious. In this verse, Krishna says that people approach him when in distress, in need of money, or when actually inquisitive to understand the Supreme Being or the original source of everything. Some people approach him in the pursuit of knowledge of the absolute truth, and others approach him when they are distressed, like devotee Gajendra. Others are inquisitive, like the great sages headed by Shaunak, and others need money, like Dhruv Maharaj. Shukadev Goswami approached the Lord when he pursued knowledge. All these great personalities thus took to the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, Prabhupada has given us the example of Gajendra. He was distressed, so he approached Lord Krishna. Sages headed by Shaunak, when they were inquisitive, then they approached Krishna. Dhruv Maharaj, he wanted some opulence, so he approached Krishna. And Shukadev Goswami approached Lord when he pursued the knowledge. All these great personalities, Krishna, were approached so that they could fulfill their desires. So Krishna fulfilled all desires, and all these personalities, they took to the devotional service so they could satisfy their needs. Verse 95. Artha artharthi dui sakam bhitare gani jigyasu gyani dui moksha kam mani. Materialistic devotees take to devotional service and worship Krishna when they are distressed or in need of money. Those who are actually inquisitive to understand the supreme source of everything, and those who are in search of knowledge, are called transcendentalists, for they desire liberation from all material contamination. Verse 96. Eichari sukriti haya maha bhagyavan tat tat kamadi chadi haya shuddha bhaktiman. Because they have a pious background, all four types of people are to be considered greatly fortunate. Such people gradually give up material desires and become pure devotees. Verse 97. Sadhu sangha kripa kimfa krishnera kripaya kamadi dhu sangha chadi shuddha bhakti paya. One is elevated to the platform of devotional life by the mercy of a Vaishnav, the bona fide spiritual master, and by the special mercy of Krishna. On the platform, one gives up all material desires and the association of unwanted people. Thus, one is elevated to the platform of pure devotional service. Verse 98. Sat sangana mukta du sango hatam notsahate buddha kirtya manam yasho yasya sakrid akarnya rochanam. The intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in the association of pure devotees and have become free from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. Purport: this is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.10.11. All the members of the Kuru dynasty offered respects when Krishna was leaving Hastinapur after the battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna was going to his own kingdom, and all the members of the Kuru dynasty were overwhelmed by his departure. This verse was spoken in that connection by Sutta Goswami. A pure devotee becomes attached to Krishna by hearing the Lord's glories. The Lord's glories and the Lord himself are identical. One has to be qualified to understand this absolute truth. Therefore, one should be given a chance to associate with pure devotee. Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant for this purpose. Prabhupada is saying here in the purport, we want to create pure devotees so that other people will benefit by their association. In this way, the number of pure devotees increases. Professional preachers cannot create pure devotees. There are many professional preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam who read this work to earn their livelihood. However, they cannot convert the materialistic people to devotional service. Only a pure devotee can convert others to pure devotional service. It is therefore important for all the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement to first become pure devotees and follow the regulative principles, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Like we were told that these are the 4 austerities for the jivas of the Kali Yuga, because their bodies can handle only this much of austerity, and even these austerities people find really, really difficult. Actually, things are changing now. We are hearing from the doctors and everyone, the nutritionists, the dietitians, that eating the plant-based food is so good for us, grains, millets, and if you can take the dairy or take the nut, milk, etc., legumes, they are good for the health. So this is what is the first austerity is all about: no meat eating, and keep away from gambling. Then this austerity keeps your hard-earned money in your pockets. You can use it in the right cause in your life for bhakti and for the pursuits in your family. And intoxication, this austerity also keeps one in good health. When one keeps away from the liquor and the smoking, etc. And the last austerity, keeping in good relationships. When one just is keeping themselves into the marital side, then they can keep check both on their health and their mental well-being, and their family life can be happy. Prabhupada goes on to explain in the purport, they should regularly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on their beads, follow the devotional process, rise early in the morning, attend Mangal Aarti, and recite Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-Gita regularly. In this way, one can become purified and free from all material contamination. Sarvapadhi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all one's senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by employed in the service of the Lord. This is from the Narad Pancharatra. To make a show of devotional service will not help one. One must be a pure devotee following the devotional process. Then one can convert others to devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu practiced devotional service and preached Apani Achari Bhakti Karila Prachar. If a preacher behaves properly in devotional service, he will be able to convert others. Otherwise, his preaching will have no effect. Verse 99, Dusanga kahiye kaitava atma vanchana Krishna Krishna bhakti vinu anya kamana. Cheating oneself and cheating others is called kaitava or kaitava. Associating with those who cheat in this way is called dusanga, bad association. Those who desire things other than Krishna's service are also called dusanga, bad association. Verse number 100. Dharmaha projita kaitavo atra paramo nirmat saranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shiva dam tap trayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamunhi Krite Kim Va Parer Ishwarah Sadyo Riddhi Avarudhyate Atra Kritibhihi Shushurushbhis Tat Kshanat. Shushurushbhi means desiring to hear. The great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principle of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being: and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge those willing to hear the message of the scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there is no need for any scripture other than Srimad Bhagavatam. Purport: this is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. For an explanation, see Adi Lila 1.91. Verse 101. Prashabde moksha vancha Kaitava pradhana ei shloke Sridhara Swami Kariyachena Vyakhyan. The prefix pra in the word projita specifically refers to those desiring liberation or oneness with the Supreme. Such a desire should be understood to be the foremost cheating propensity. The great commentator Sridhar Swami has explained this verse in that way. Verse 102. Sakame bhakte akya jani dayalu bhagwan swacharan diya kare ichhar vidhan. When merciful Lord Krishna understands that a foolish devotee desires material prosperity, he gratefully gives him the shelter of his lotus feet. In this way, the Lord covers the devotee's undesirable ambitions. So, this verse is also so beautiful, which tells us then when Krishna understands that the foolish devotee is desiring just the material happiness, he will gratefully give him shelter of his lotus feet. Because Krishna sometimes wants to help the devotee, give him or her the causeless mercy, so that they don't just go after these material pursuits more than they need in this life. Because no matter how much materially prosper a person becomes, will be always in want to become more and more. There is no end to the desires of material life. Verse number 103. Satyam dishati arthitam arhito nrinam nevarth do yat punar arthita yatah swayam vidate bhajatam anichchatam ichha pidhanam nij pad pallavam. Ichha pidhanam means covering all the desires. Nijapad Pallavam, the shelter of his own lotus feet. Pallav is also a synonym for lotus feet, just like Arvind and Pankaj. There are so many synonyms of the same word in Sanskrit language that it's a treasure trove which we just touch when we are reading these great scriptures. Translation: whenever Krishna is requested to fulfill one's desire, he undoubtedly does so, but he does not award anything which, after being enjoyed, will cause one to petition him again and again to fulfill further desires. When one has other desires but engages in the Lord's service, Krishna forcibly gives one shelter at his lotus feet, where one will forget all other desires. So this verse is beautifully explaining something to us, that when we request Krishna to fulfill our desires, he will fulfill them, but he's not going to award us something that we are going to ask for more and more and more. Like, pitless desires, like they say. And if we start, if we have other desires, but we start the devotional service, Krishna will at once give us shelter to us in his lotus feet, so that we can forget the other desires, so that we can engage ourselves in Krishna's devotional service. So Lord is protecting everyone. Purport: this is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.19.27. Verse number 104. Sadhu Sangha Krishna Kripa Bhaktir Swabhava Etina Sabha Chadaya Kare Krishna Bhav. Association with the devotee, the mercy of Krishna, and the nature of devotional service help one to give up all undesirable association and gradually attain elevation to the platform of love of Godhead. Purport. This verse refers to the association of pure devotees, the mercy of Krishna, and the rendering of devotional service. All these help one give up the association of non-devotees and the material opulence awarded by the external energy Maya. A pure devotee is never attracted by material opulence, for he understands that wasting time to acquire material opulence is a misuse of the gift of human life. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Shrama eva hi kevalam. In the eyes of a devotee, politicians, social workers, philanthropists, philosophers, and humanitarians are simply wasting their time. For human society is not freed from the cycle of birth and death by their activity and propaganda. These so-called philanthropists, politicians, and philosophers have no knowledge because they do not know that there is life after death. Understanding that there is life after death is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. A person can understand himself what he is simply by understanding the first lessons of the Bhagavad-Gita 2.13. Dehino asmin yatha dehe Ātmārāma yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change, not knowing the real science of life. A foolish person engages in the temporary activities of this life and thus becomes further entangled in the cycle of birth and death. He always desires material opulence which can be attained by karma, jnana, and yoga. But when one is actually elevated to the devotional platform, he gives up all these desires. This is called Anya Abhilashita Shunya. Then one becomes a pure devotee. Verse 105. Aage yata yata artha vyakhyan kariba Krishna guna swadera e hetu janiba. In this way, I shall progressively explain all the words in the Ātmārāma verse. It should be understood that all these words are meant to enable one to taste the transcendental qualities of Krishna. So all the transcendental qualities of Krishna are explained in the Ātmārāma verse by Mahaprabhu. Verse 106. Shloka Vyakhya lagi e karilun abhas ebe kari shlokera mularth prakash. I have given all these explanations just to give some indication of the verse's meaning. Now let me explain the real meaning of the verse. Verse 107. Jnana marge upasaka duita prakara kevala brahmopasaka moksha kankshi are. There are two kinds of worshippers on the path of philosophical speculation. One is called Brahmopasak, a worshipper of the impersonal Brahman, and the other is called Moksha Kankshi, one who desires liberation. Verse 108. Keval Brahmopasaka Tina Bhedahaya Sadhaka Brahmamaya Ara Prapta Brahmalaya. There are three types of people who worship the impersonal Brahman. The first is the beginner, the second is one whose thoughts are absorbed in Brahman, the third is one who is actually merged in the impersonal Brahman. Verse 109. Bhakti vina kevala jnane mukti nahi haya bhakti sadhana kare ye prapta brahmalaya. One cannot attain liberation simply through philosophical speculation devoid of devotional service. However, if one renders devotional service, he is automatically on the Brahman platform. Verse 110. Bhakti swabhava brahma haite kare akarshan divya teha diya karai krishnera bhajan. Characteristically, one in devotional service is attracted away from the impersonal Brahman platform. He is offered a transcendental body to engage in Lord Krishna's service. Verse 111. Bhakta deha paile haya gunera smarana guna krista hena kare nirmala bhajana. When one gets a devotee's spiritual body, he can remember the transcendental qualities of Krishna simply by being attracted to Krishna's transcendental qualities. One becomes a pure devotee engaged in service. Purpose. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given the following summary of verses 107 to 111. Prabhupada is telling us in the purport, transcendentalists on the path of philosophical speculation can be divided into two categories: the pure worshippers of impersonal Brahman and those who wish to merge into the existence of impersonal Brahman. When one is fully absorbed in the thought that one is not different from the Supreme Absolute Truth, one is said to be the worshipper of the impersonal Brahman. The impersonal worshippers of Brahman can again be divided into three categories. First are the sadhakas, those who are nearing perfect execution of the process of Brahman realization. Second are those who are fully absorbed in the meditation on Brahman. And third are those who are on the Brahma Bhuta platform and have no relationship with material existence. Even though the worshipper of impersonal Brahman can be highly advanced, he cannot attain liberation without discharging devotional service. Anyone who has realized himself as spirit soul can engage in devotional service. This is the verdict of the Bhagavad-Gita 18.54. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samaha sarveshu bhuteshu mat bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. To attain the platform of pure devotional service, one has to become spiritually pure and attain the Brahma Bhuta platform, which is beyond material anxiety and material discrimination. When one approaches pure devotional service after realizing Brahman, one becomes attracted by pure devotional service. At such a time, by rendering devotional service, one gets a spiritual body with purified senses. Sarvopadhi vinirumuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. When one's senses are pure, one can render loving devotional service to Krishna. A pure devotee can only remember Krishna's transcendental qualities. Remembering them, he fully engages in the loving service of the Lord. Verse 112. Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagavantam bhajante. Even a liberated soul merged in the impersonal Brahman effulgence is attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. He thus installs a deity and renders the Lord's service. Purport: highly elevated Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes worship the Radha Krishna deity and discuss the pastimes of the Lord, but their purpose is not elevation to Golok Vrindavan. They want to merge into the Lord's effulgence. This statement is quoted from Shankaracharya's commentary on the Upanishad known as Nrisimha Tapani. Verse 113. Janmahite Shukha Sanakadi Brahmanya Krishna Guna Krista Hena Krishnera Bhajaya. Although Shukadeva Goswami and the four Kumars were always absorbed in the thought of impersonal Brahman and were thus Brahmavadis, they were nonetheless attracted by the transcendental pastimes and qualities of Krishna. Therefore, they later became devotees of Krishna. Verse 114. Sanakadera Krishna Kripaya Saurabhe Hare Mana Guna Krista Hena Kare Nirmala Bhajan. Guna Akrishta. Sorry, I've been saying it wrong. It should be Guna Akrishta, thus being attracted by the qualities of Krishna. I didn't see the diacritic under the S, which makes sa, then sha. The minds of the four Kumars were attracted by the aroma of the flowers offered to Krishna's lotus feet. Being thus attracted by the transcendental qualities of Krishna, they engaged in pure devotional service. We'll continue our reading from verse 115 onwards. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.